Alrighty, everybody. Hello and welcome. My name is Austin, and welcome to the third episode of the Basement Takes podcast. Before we get started, I have a little bit of announcements to make. We are officially now on Spotify. So if you have a Spotify account, you want to listen on the go, and you don't really want to, get the whole YouTube thing set up, that is always an option now. It's just the Basement Takes on Spotify. Super easy to find. We're in the process of getting onto the Apple Podcast app. I have not gotten a notification back yet saying that it's been processed, but as soon as it does, we should be on there. And then we do have a Twitter account. It's at Basement Takes YT. Again, that's at Basement Takes YT. That's where we go. I'm on there pretty much all the time, trying to get some discussions going and just kind of talking about what's happening in gaming. It's a really good way to reach out, and if you have any suggestions for topics or just to know when we're going live, stuff like that, just go ahead and check it out. But yeah, today is going to be kind of a little bit of a different episode. I am joined here today by, again, my good friend Mr. Anderson. How are you doing today, sir?
Good morning. Doing wonderful.
Good. We're basically just gonna be talking about kind of a little bit of like a gaming news roundup, some exciting topics that have been happening kind of throughout the week. I've been keeping up with, as far as Microsoft Flight Simulator, stuff like that. Just some gaming news and such. Thought it would be pretty interesting to find out. So I think the first one that I kind of want to get into is with Amazon, and they had their New World preview happening kind of over this past week. It took me a little bit to get into it. I ended up buckling and pre-ordering the game so I could secure my spot. Why don't you go ahead and, before I share my thoughts, you played it a little bit longer than me. Why don't you go ahead and kind of say how you think it's gone so far and give your honest opinion.
So I had it pre-ordered from the beginning, and so I've definitely gotten to play from the second that it dropped, right? And first, I'll say this is it's a preview of the game. They came out when they released it and saying that it's not really going to be much. It's just out there because they needed to give something to people, and I think that's a good technique to market your game, to say like, hey, we want to keep everybody just excited for what's going to be coming out. And so far the game didn't really change that much from the pre-alpha launch, or the test, the confidential test. They did update some of the, I'd say, the mobs. They don't get stuck in rocks as often, but they definitely have their lot of problems. But for generic combat and as the game plays, I'm really excited for it. I think it was nice. I really enjoy that it's a fresh kind of take on an MMO. But again, it's really got its issues that they need to hash out, and I'd like to see the community kind of put forward. Especially, I like that a lot of streamers are playing it, and if they can bring to light all these issues, then Amazon can come in and say, try to work on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's a lot of stuff that, kind of looking at the state that the game is in, you can definitely see why it was delayed, for sure. There's a lot of, I just think whenever you have a game that was solely developed as a certain thing, and that thing being basically the entirety of the game was supposed to be PvP only. So a player versus player type of game where you're going in and you are fighting other players, and that's kind of the objective of the game. That it's hard to pivot from that, and it's hard to take that feedback of the alpha testers and to be like, well, we got to add some PvE content for people if we want to make this a competent MMO. People need PvE stuff. They need to be able to quest. They need to be able to do dungeons, and there has to be some kind of in-game content. that's not just PvP related, or doing PvP related quests only, because a lot of people they just don't care about PvP. They don't want to play with other players. If they wanted to do PvP, they'd go play a PvP game mode, or something like that. So I feel like kind of forcing the PvP down people's throats kind of rubbed a lot of alpha testers wrong. And so I think it's kind of pretty obvious during the preview that PvP is still kind of the main focus of the game at the current state that it's at. And I don't really think they've iterated any of the changes that they are going to in the 7 or 8 months that they have until the game is officially released next year. Because from what I saw, it was pretty much the same as the closed alpha that was a couple weeks ago. Just a little bit better optimization, and as far as like they had the opening cinematic and just a couple of random things and fixes, but the core game is still very much a very PvP focused kind of experience. And I really do hope that in the next couple of months they really look at what a lot of MMOs do right, and they decide kind of what to implement there and kind of pick and choose kind of what they want to add going forward.
Well, I think it's very hard for them to kind of I feel like they don't want to spoil the game for anybody. They're not releasing a whole bunch of content for the people, hopefully, just to say, not to burn them out, not to for everybody to just basically spoil the game before it even comes out. But I like that you said that they force the PvP into everybody, and it's really hard because players are allowed to go wherever they want, join one of the 3 factions, and then turn on PvP, and they'll sit outside a major encampment, and you walk out of it, you have PvP on to try to go do the specific quest lines that are for PvP that give you the best rewards out of any of the quests, and then you die. And if you manage to escape them, you've got a horde of 20, 30 people just kind of balling after you across the whole world just to try to get this one kill to ruin your day.
Yeah, I think something I ran into a lot kind of as I was playing through the preview, just the fact that if you want to play solo, good luck. There's not a lot of options to like you're saying, if you want those good rewards, if you want the PvP gear or you want the faction gear and you want to actually do the rep, you're gonna have to be with people, because if you're out in the open world and you're flagged with PvP on a faction mission, you will get some guy will see you from across the map and he will fucking hunt you down. There's nothing stopping him. There is no honor in the wild. As soon as you leave that main city, man, you are fair game to anybody around you. Which if PvP is your thing, that prospect might excite you. I think I really do think MMO should be a social experience. But I feel like you shouldn't be pigeonholed into only having to be able to play a certain playstyle if you want the best rewards. Especially most of the time whenever you think of MMOs, the best rewards come from the PvE side, and PvP gear doesn't really translate very much into, I guess, the PvE side, or the PvE side of the game. So it's kind of weird that the weapons and the armor that you're getting and the kind of faction rewards that you're looking at aren't really PvP focused, because there's not really a PvP system. It's just open world. You just attack people in the open world. There's not really a structured PvP system in the game. So I think
mad chaos.
Yeah, so I think their focus is very heavily on the survival aspect of the survival MMO, where they're kind of handling it more of an Ark kind of Rust situation, where if you're out in the wild, it's survival of the fittest, good luck. But I feel like to a certain extent, at the end of the day, I'm I just want to fucking quest. I don't want to have to deal with a group of 6 guys running around just killing me when I'm level 14. they're level 35, kitted out, out of their minds, and they're running around with hammers and axes and just stun locking you with auto attacks. You can't do anything, and then you just have to teleport 3 kilometers away back to the nearest safe house. It just feels really bad, and I hope that they add not only balancing to like the way that the PvP works, but just kind of give the PvE players something to do other than PvP, and then they either make PvP servers so that the PvPers can just go nuts, and they make PvE servers, stuff like that. There's so much they could do to fix the game, and I really do hope that they kind of take the feedback that people are giving them during this not beta TM and give them, they really take it to heart.
I would like to see a little bit either the possibility of, so we have different starting zones, and this is where a lot of the PvP comes into play, is they have these huge, I guess it's not the factions itself, it is the zone in which you're in. They have wars, and you can participate in these wars through your faction, and I believe just win over different territories. If they were to instead make these zones specific faction based, so you join this faction and you are not necessarily locked to your area. However, if you want to just kind of quest quietly, then you're going to stay in your area a little bit. And then people have to really put that risk out that they're running into enemy territory, instead of it just being a scattered all over the map. Everybody can do what they want. Or throwing people into, like, if there's 1v1s arenas, that would be really cool, because then people specifically want to do the PvP, and that's kind of the high octane. You're not going to get ganked by 40-50 people.
Yeah, I think a really good solution to that is as well kind of just giving the PvPers an option to, like, if they want, like, put them in a PvP server, like have a server to where no matter where you go, you are always flagged for PvP if you're outside, because then it gives the PvPers a way to get what they want. I mean, they can just PvP to their heart's content. But I feel like certain people as well, especially in like a survival MMO, they don't give a shit about PvP. All they want to do is go pick flowers. They just want to go around. They want to mine ore. They want to craft gear. They want to go grind mobs. They could not be bothered to PvP ever. And I just feel like, and again, if you look in chat, I mean, it's like in the game world, this is not just like my opinion. This is, I mean, everybody is, people are asking for PvP servers basically the entire time I was playing, and all you see is people complaining about getting, ganked in the open world. And I just feel like in a game like this, where the 90% of the game takes place outside, and you spend a lot of your time not even really killing stuff. Really, you're hitting wood and you're mining ore. The fact that there are people that just all they want to do is just fuck up your day, it gets really old really fast, and it kind of makes it unenjoyable for the rest of the people, because there are the people who legitimately just want to try their hand at being the best PvPer, and it's like, great, you're allowed to play that way, but there are a lot of people that don't, and I feel like they really need to look at the player base and kind of decide how they're going to handle dividing that, because if they leave it the same way, a lot of people are just going to give up and say, I'm tired of getting ganked, and just stop playing. And then the only people that are going to be left are people just competing for PvP in the wild and not even playing the game.
Yeah, those hardcore.
So, I feel like we'll see what happens with the beta test is over. Well, not beta. The not beta is over on September 4th, and so after that, I really hope that people are giving good feedback and they're watching what the streamers are saying, because the core game is there. It's just there's a lot of stuff. It has a lot of potential, and I feel like they can really make it something special, especially if they want to compete with Ashes of Creation. They're going to have to do something good for the PvE end, or it's just going to fall off the radar. So
yeah, that is to say, we're giving it a lot of not hate, a lot of rep. We are definitely excited to see this game, and really excited to see what they can do with this potential. Like, I do not want to see it drop off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really wants to see that. I think there's some people that want to see it fail, but I think for the most part, people really, really like the game, and so they're excited to see what direction it goes. Um, but yeah, so that's New World. We're gonna try. I was gonna try not to make this whole podcast about the game. I feel like I could talk about MMOs and stuff like that all day, but we have a couple of topics here to cover, so I guess we can go ahead and move on. One of the more exciting ones, before we get into the the typical gaming stuff, um, Cyberpunk 2077 announced that they are going to have free DLC in the same kind of style as The Witcher 3, with like little minor DLC releases post launch, like armor, different like what The Witcher 3 did was like they did like different armor sets and like horse armor, and they did some cosmetic stuff and like beards and hair. And then they did a couple of little story quests added on. But I think just like in general, if CD Projekt, and we talked a little bit about this in our previous episode about the AAA gaming industry and kind of like the death of passion in it. If CD Projekt keeps up the way that they're going with the pro consumer moves, they are literally going to absolutely obliterate their sales window, and I don't think anything is going to come close. Anybody that tries to release their game next to Cyberpunk 2077 is absolutely just going to get blown out of the water.
Yeah, they have that passion project that they take their time to make exactly what they want, and I love that in a developer.
I think this whole like pro consumer push that they're doing, like with releasing this free DLC, they haven't exactly said what it is yet, but you can assume it's probably going to be, like car customizations or like story quests, just like little one-off missions, stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited to see where they go with it. But yeah, I think it's just probably one of the best, most pro consumer things that you can do in a game right now, especially in a market riddled with microtransactions and little. All right. But yeah, I think that the fact that they are releasing this, I think it shows a lot about kind of going into the way the developers are acting nowadays. I think it's a very good kind of counterpoint, and like I was saying earlier, if they do keep this up, I feel like it's going to be extremely healthy, and it really has been extremely healthy already for the gaming industry. And I feel like a lot of people are catching on, and they're just being like they're following in their footsteps, and it's a really good example to set.
Well, I am really tired of these massive game developers that they don't have any personality behind a game, and I don't think gaming is about the money. I gaming to me, and the fact that it's been in my life for so long, it's an art, and it's an art platform that no other art platform can do. It's where it punishes the player for not being able to complete, right? Not being able to read the page. You can't move on in this story. That is an exclusive type of art that they don't really realize. They're just kind of releasing all these games. I can't play this. That's about the money. Screw being about the money. I love to see people release a thing that says, you guys want to enjoy to play this, then here, fucking enjoy this. Look at this. And it's this big spectacle that comes out where everybody's like, holy shit, I'm going to remember this game for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I think gaming is 100% an art form, and I feel like CD Projekt really appreciates that. And you look at The Witcher, I mean, The Witcher's went down and is gonna go down as one of the best RPGs ever, like of our generation for sure. And the amount of care and the amount of practice and the amount of effort that they put into making the story not only honor the source material, the books, but also the art direction and just making the game world look beautiful and detailed. And the fact that it was made by such a small team just shows that this kind of stuff is his kind of stuff does sell, and this kind of stuff does work. But these AAA game companies don't want that because they want more money, and they're greedy. So they're just going to implement as many things as possible to make them money and just suck the soul out of the games. But
Hmm.
um, it's something that everybody sees and everybody knows nowadays. And I feel like if CD Projekt keep this up, it's going to set a very, very good example, and it already is setting a very good example for what can work in the gaming world. So I think that kind of is a good segue to one of our other talking points. There was an article I saw recently about Titanfall and why it should be bigger than Fortnite, but we're all idiots, and that's the name. That's the name of the article. Um, and when you look at the article, it's actually a pretty interesting read. And a lot of people have seen that Titanfall 2 was actually added to Steam recently, and it got a pretty big boost in its player base because of it. And I feel like a lot of people started kind of talking about it again, because they realized just kind of how good the game actually is. Um, and so, doing a little bit of, by the way, this is a article by a guy named Gerald Lynch over on Tech Radar. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of reading from this just to kind of give you an example of what he's talking about. So, just reading the first little blurb here. So, some games are too good for this world. Sometimes a game comes along that ticks every single box you could hope for, that excels in its genre, that offers replayability, excitement, invention, and bombast, and it just passes you all by. In a world where we flock to see anti-Apple merch flogged in Fortnite and happily endure gazillion gigabyte updates in Call of Duty Warzone, we don't deserve Titanfall 2. And I don't think that anybody could have said it better than that. In relation to kind of the way that the gaming industry is going nowadays, um, when you look at Fortnite and you look at Warzone, I mean, just like these huge, gigantic titans of like popularity, and you look at a game like Titanfall that is just a genuinely amazing game, multiplayer and single player wise. Say what you want about balance in multiplayer, that it's a fun game. It's just an absolutely fun game. And he goes on to talk about like come on, you get to fight in giant mechs against other players with giant mechs, and it has a great story to boot. It has, you know, very interesting characters, good Titan design. Like, it's just a good game, and the fact that it's not as popular as it should be is kind of criminal. And I completely agree.
I I like that. Like, right, of course, yes. I think these games with fantastic world design should be, definitely way more popular than I guess what we're playing now. But I will give to Fortnite, they captured their audience so well. Of right, the game is a potato. You can run it. So pretty much it's meant for all markets, literally all of them, mobile to just as well of a PC as you can play, even though you probably won't be playing Fortnite if you have a $20,000 PC. But it's colorful, it looks simple, it plays simple, and it's a game that's meant to just be either watched or played casually. That has the potential of playing competitively. Um, and not only that, it's free to play, which boosts the market to not only older but younger generations. And I think that's what they captured really, really well. Is of course the battle royale was coming out, everybody loved it. They're like, okay, and then this dropped that anybody could play this. Here you go. Here's this wacky battle royale, and anybody can get into it. And from there, that's what kind of skyrocketed it off the map.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, I get it. Like, it's when you look at Fortnite and the fact that it is free to play, and there's it's so accessible. I mean, kind of like League of Legends. When League of Legends first came out, it was kind of the same way. I mean, like, the art style is really accessible and really easy to kind of understand, and the game is fairly simple at its core. And Fortnite nowadays, you can argue, is pretty complex, and there's a lot of really, really good players that kind of took it to the extreme and ran with it, and with like all the building and stuff. But Fortnite, at its core, I mean, is a very, very accessible game, and I feel like a lot of people know that, and especially the younger generation, the people that don't really care about, the other stuff that comes with games, like the story or like the world building and stuff. All they want to do is shoot people and play with their friends. I feel like that's really where they kind of drove that home, and they did a really good job at taking a game that nobody knew about and just absolutely making it as popular as possible. And I feel like it does go back to the simplicity and just the fact that it is so accessible, and the fact that it's extremely cross-platform with like pretty much literally every single console and every single medium in which you could play a game, you can play Fortnite on. It's it's awesome. I mean, you can play it on your phone, you can play it on your Switch, on your computer, Xbox, everything. So it's very, very accessible. So I feel like
Honestly,
that's
I think cross-platforming is one of the coolest things to ever come to the gaming industry. Like,
yeah,
go ahead, let everybody play together, and I mean, you'll kind of see that PC ends up on top, but that's okay.
yeah. It's like cross-platform. I think is something that a lot of games need. And if you look at again like the popularity of Warzone and Call of Duty and that being cross-platform, a lot of people will complain that mouse and keyboard is better, and a lot of people will complain that aim assist is better. But at the end of the day, it brings so many more people into your game, and it's just like why wouldn't you do cross-platform? Like there's
Hmm.
no reason. I mean, obviously, besides like budget constraints and not physically being able to implement that into your game, it's like if you have the option, do it, because you will get so many more people and so much more exposure, and just being able to have people play, because not everybody is on the same system, not everybody's on PC, not everybody's on console. So being able to play with somebody who's on a PS4 and can't afford a gaming PC while you're on your PC is a very, very valuable thing,
Oh yes,
for
that's
sure.
it. Bring down those 20-minute queue times from Overwatch for just playing on PC.
Yeah, I think so. Speaking of extremely powerful PCs, um, Microsoft Flight Simulator is a very good thing to go into. Um, there has been an explosion in popularity with this game as of recently, and kind of a joke circulating around that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is now the new Crisis, and that the question that's going to be asked from here on out is, well, yeah, I know could it run Crisis back in the day, but now can it run Microsoft Flight Simulator? And it's a very, very valuable comparison, because to put it in perspective, a 2080 Ti, basically a system with a 2080 Ti, probably like the best system you can buy, on ultra settings at 1080p, mind you, can get about 35 FPS. Not to mention 4K. A 2080 Ti, which is a $1,500 graphics card, can pull about 25 to 30 FPS on Microsoft Flight Simulator. And when you look at why that is, it starts to make a little bit more sense. Um, when the game, I think they used like 2 petabytes of map data for the game, for cities, for terrain, geography, so on and so forth. Um, and to be able to get that down to about 150 gigs minimum for a user is pretty impressive. But when you look at the amount of data that they're streaming in, and you look at real time weather data from actual like weather satellites, and being able to fly into hurricanes that are actually happening, and being able to see planes that are actually in that exact position in the air while you're flying around, um, being able to fly around basically what is essentially a 1-to-1 scale of the world on your computer in a plane, and have it look that pretty, I would expect the game to run around 30 FPS as well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just think like that's the amount of the technological leap that they've taken with this game is absolutely mind blowing. And to call it a game is really kind of almost an understatement because it really is like I mean it's almost as true as a flying experience as you can get. I mean, that's the
It's a
idea.
simulator. It's not a game. It's not something that you just sit down and play. No, this is something eccentrics go and get their controllers for, and will, take legit flights, and this is something that we could even possibly begin training people in, so that companies would be like, yo, honestly, we're going to invest in this product and actually put it to use.
Yeah. And I was listening to another kind of analysis of the game, and they said that if you were to play this game through the simulator and you were to get good at it and you were like a really good flight simulator user, like if it was an emergency, you could probably get into that aircraft and you could probably pilot it with some level of proficiency because it is made to be as accurate to a flying experience as possible. I mean, like it is absolutely like amazing the way that they've managed to develop this game, and it like I haven't played it yet, but I've watched videos and I've watched streamers play it. Um, and I mean, it is like it's not easy at all. Like it is even just to get off the ground. It takes like I feel like a whole novel of stuff to learn just to like get up into the air. So I feel like if you did use this game as a way to train and to be like a hobby pilot, I feel like you could be pretty good at flying in real life.
Yeah, better than me.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that it's just absolutely crushing machines, I think, is pretty funny too. Um, I think I think we'll see, especially we have this new kind of 3000 series GPUs coming out in the future from NVIDIA, and the AMD Big Navi stuff is coming out soon. Um, I think we'll see exactly. I think they're probably going to use Flight Simulator as one of their kind of marketing points with this, and I'm interested to see kind of what they offer coming up in the future as far as like just like the raw graphics horsepower. I wonder if they're going to release a new way of like, because it seems like the way that the uh kind of like the buzzwords for gaming coming up, especially with the release of like the PS5 and the Xbox, seems to have a lot to do with like game like streaming data, either with an SSD or with like the new generation of PCIe, and like especially the new PS5 and Xbox Series X are like extremely pushing the fact that their SSDs are so fast. And if you look at the PS5, they have like a custom engineered SSD that like talks in is like in talks with the GPU to stream as much graphic data as possible as fast as possible. It's basically just like
Mhm.
opening up a fire hose and just like letting it all out.
Yeah,
And
we're
so
connecting a bus between.
so I wonder if the new GPUs, I wonder if that's going to be a selling point with them, is having some kind of NVIDIA thing that I'm not a computer, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know how this would work, but it's like some kind of NVIDIA technology that allows better, more efficient, faster, like texture streaming and stuff, with PCIe Gen 4, or being able to talk to if you have an NVMe drive, being able to talk directly to it and basically like optimizing it specifically for gaming. I don't know. It sounds like something that NVIDIA would do, and it sounds like something that could be pretty beneficial. So we'll see what happens in the future. Um, but I guess moving on to our next topic, Gotham Knights is a game that was just revealed recently as the next kind of iteration into the Arkham, I guess, universe. And I don't know if you've seen anything about this game. Have you watched any gameplay videos or anything about Gotham
Not
Knights?
not gameplay. I did watch the trailer. I read a couple of articles. And I gotta say, I don't like it. I don't like that they're continually adding to this series. I think, at least in my opinion, all right, I loved Arkham Asylum. Fantastic. Again, one of the best games that I've played. I think this kind of genre of game needs to be kept to a smaller degree because I played number 2 and number 3. I don't remember the exact names. And I did not enjoy the fact that they were this open world aspect. But even that being said, the combat of it and just kind of the overall feel, it doesn't look to me like they're changing much. It looks like I appreciate that it's a new story, a new feel, like something kind of going on there, but it seems like the exact same game. It's kind of like a bit of a reskin. The characters might be able to play a little differently, but there doesn't seem to be a huge notable difference.
Yeah, I think that as far as like an Arkham game goes, like in the Arkham universe, I feel like this game is kind of it looks a little bit the same, and but as far as like gameplay goes, I feel like this is a very, at least in my opinion, I think it's a very interesting direction they could go. And I like the fact that Batman isn't in it,
Hmm.
and Batman is like, I don't remember if he's like dead or retired. It's like it's one of
Yeah,
those things.
I believe he's dead.
He sent out a video that said like, oh, if you see this, I'm no longer whatever here or something. And so that's like the whole kind of setup, right? Is like that it's now like Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Robin, and they're kind of having to clean up Gotham, in the absence of Batman. And I like the fact that it's not just another, I guess, like Arkham entry that's just kind of trying to further the story. And there's a lot of kind of, I feel like there's a lot of cool things, a lot of cool directions they could go with the story about how, like, Batman's been Batman for about 15 years, and in that 15 years he's made a lot of enemies and made a lot of people um very mad, and he's also left a legacy on a lot of people and made a lot of heroes as well, and you see that with the people that you get to play as. But as far as gameplay, I feel like the whole like action RPG kind of like co-op beat 'em up is really a cool direction to go for a game like this.
Hmm.
And I'm a big sucker for damage numbers and RPGs in general. And I feel like being able to like play this co-op game and have different abilities and maybe different equipment that you can equip and making different builds for your your Gotham Knights, if you will. I feel like that's going to be something that's very cool and something that we haven't really seen a lot of, and I feel
That
like it can be pretty successful.
Yeah, I would love to see them bring co-op into this actually. It would remind me a lot of you did play this with me. It was the TMNT Battle Nexus. I believe it was Battle Nexus 2 that I had for PS2. Um,
Yeah, it's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beat 'em up game.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was fantastic, right?
yeah. I mean, that's a great game.
And the bringing that kind of feel, the fact that they can make it co-op, I think would really change it up. If
It
it's
is.
just a
It is
single
co-op.
player, okay, cool. Because just a single player, you running around, it brings that same Batman-y feel to it that was just like, because I remember playing Arkham City, and I got so bored of it just because I had this whole city, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't really want to run around the whole city and just go beat up everybody. Like I want some direction, and which is why I really liked Arkham Asylum because I'm a fan of stealthy games. I'm a fan of like being able to crawl through all the chutes and then pop out and garrote a guy and carry him up to the ceiling. Um, it's very all action based at all times. There's no lulls of you just kind of flying around the city, and like it was a cool direction for them to go. It just, because you were alone in such this large world, it kind of dropped off for me.
Yeah, it's very much the Arkham, the early Arkham games are very much of a more focused, kind of focused experience where you are, especially Arkham Asylum, is a very contained Batman story, and a lot of people like it for that reason. I think Arkham Asylum or Arkham City and Arkham Knight especially have their own kind of place in the fan base, and I personally really liked Arkham Knight. I thought that it was good, and I liked the open world like aspect of it. I like exploring and beating up everybody on the map. It's good for me because it's kind of like a time waster, and I like um I just generally like open world games in general. And so the fact that I can play as Batman and run around and do all this stuff and drive the Batmobile, to me it was really cool. But I can see how for some people it was very much a little bit too much, freedom and too much running around, and having that contained kind of very um, pure kind of Batman story. I feel like I can really understand where people are coming from
Hmm.
when they like that better. And a lot of people didn't really like the story in Arkham Knight and Arkham Origins, especially. I think it was kind of a lame game, but I think the boss fights are one of the coolest boss fights, or some of the coolest boss fights in any Arkham game. Like the fight. I don't know if you played Arkham Origins, but there's a fight where you fight Deathstroke, and that fight is so fucking cool. Like all
Hmm.
of like the quick time events and like the way that you're like fighting him, it's just such a cool fight, and I recommend you going to watch it on YouTube. It's actually really cool. Um, but I think Gotham Knights is gonna be I think just the fact that it's a co-op action RPG. I feel like that enough to me. I'm not really a super big DC fan, but I am a big action RPG fan. And the fact that it's co-op and you can play with your friends and tackle these like bosses and just beat up enemies and run around Gotham, I feel like that enough is a very very cool
Yeah.
concept. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see what happens with the game.
Oh yeah.
Um, I feel like DC just took their fucking dick out, for lack of a better words, and just slapped Marvel and Square Enix across the face by releasing this, because the Avengers game that came out was, just a giant steaming pile of doo doo. And I feel like in these DC games, like these, like your Arkham games, and uh, what else is there in the DC gaming sphere? Not really much else, is there?
No, not really.
As far as like AAA like DC games, yeah. So like outside of like the Arkham games, there's pretty much literally been zero monetization in any of those games. I can't even
Yeah.
remember, besides like
And
Arkham Knight with like the Batmobile skins, but I don't even think those were pay.
Injustice.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, in fighting games, it kind of makes sense because you literally cannot buy advantage in a fighting game. I don't
Mm.
really. Well, doesn't Injustice, the newer ones don't have abilities, do they? Like the new Mortal Kombat. I
I
don't,
am not sure.
because I know the new like Mortal Kombat games have like abilities, and you can like custom. It's just like RPG mechanics. Like you can like level up your guy, and like a max level like Punisher will beat like a lower level Punisher. It's a weird like, or not Punisher, Terminator. It's a weird kind of thing in a fighting game. I don't really understand that, but um, I don't think the new Injustice games have. But obviously, I will be crucified for being wrong. But I don't think they have like a RPG system where you can level up your
Yeah,
heroes.
I believe it's just set
Yeah,
characters.
I know for the first game didn't have anything like that. Um, but yeah, as far as monetization in DC games, I don't think that any of the Arkham games have had any like microtransactions or cash shops. And I think Arkham Knight's the only game that had like there was like a skin system. You could play as like, like the old Batman, or you could play as like the Christian Bale Batman, and you had like different Batmobile skins. But most of those were either unlocked from pre-ordering the game, special promotions outside of the game, like the movie promotions and stuff, or they were like, I know the one for the Justice League, like the Ben Affleck Batman, that was like a promotion, like a promotional DLC that they did. I don't even think that costs extra money. I could be completely wrong, talking out of my ass, but regardless, it was a very easy to justify like cosmetic cash out. But like, you know, I for one liked that. Like I liked having all those skins. I think it was cool to play as like the Ben Affleck and the Christian Bale. But besides the point, you look at like this is something that came up recently with the new Avengers game where the beta came out on PlayStation and the performance was absolutely atrocious. I mean like 25 FPS on a good day. The render distance was absolutely terrible. The character models look good, the animations look good, but the performance was absolutely dog shit. And you look at the way it is on PC, the performance is okay. I mean, it doesn't really look like that. It doesn't like look like very good as a game, in my opinion. All the characters, like watching people play like on Twitch and stuff, like a lot of the characters, their movesets look pretty boring, and like the amount of impact that your like abilities have on the playstyle looks pretty boring, and just like overall the game just looks like, I mean, it really does look like a pile of doo-doo. Like there's not really a lot to it, and I feel like the game came out a little bit too late. Does that make sense? Like
yes, no,
the
that totally does.
The Avengers craze and like the Avengers fanboyism, I guess you could say, has kind of died off with like I guess like the core audience isn't really there anymore. And a lot of people that played it are like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool, and then never touched it again. You know, it's like you don't really see a lot of people playing the game right now. And a lot of people that are defending the game are just kind of spitting out like baseless defenses. It's like, oh well, you know, you're just not good enough at the game to enjoy it. It's like, what? Like it's not a it's not a competitive
story,
game.
yeah.
It's a multiplayer RPG. You don't have to be, you shouldn't have to be good at a game to enjoy the game. You should be able to pick up the game and play it and have fun. And if you're not good, getting better helps you enjoy it more, but you shouldn't have to study, you know, hours and watch hours of YouTube videos just to have fun in a game. That's not the point. The point of a game is to be fun. And if the game's not fun, then you don't want to get good at the game. It's that simple. But
yeah,
I saw this guy. He was like, oh, you just don't understand the combos, and it's like, well, yeah, because they're stupid. They're dumb. They don't do anything.
I think they're trying to take off the Spider-Man craze, because those games were fantastic, right? That came out and everybody was like, "Holy crap! Like this is really cool." Adding the UI, like was incredibly creative and all that. And I think they're exactly trying to take off of that. And like you said, it's too late now. You can't be doing this at this point, right? There's too many other things coming out at the moment that are just going to take this away. This is going to be another thing that happened.
Yeah, and I think just you look at the monetization of what they're doing and the kind of way they're marketing the game. I mean, an entire character is locked behind a console exclusive. Like you can't even play as Spider-Man unless you have a PS4. Which if you're Sony, it makes sense. Spider-Man is yours. I get it from a business standpoint, but from a consumer standpoint, fuck that. That's so stupid. If I'm not going out to buy a PS4 just to play as one character, like fuck that. That's so dumb. The fact that an entire section of the game is locked off because you don't own a PlayStation, that's so greedy. And Sony is notorious for this. Like Sony has been doing this for a long time, and there's not anything like, not just the fact of like locking off characters. If you look at Destiny had a exclusivity deal with Sony for a long time before they separated with Activision, where literally certain dungeons and guns and content was PlayStation exclusive. You could not play it. You could not play certain events or get certain weapons that were actually pretty good on certain platforms, and that is so anti-consumer that it's crazy. And the people that defend that kind of behavior are just don't even talk to me, because I won't humor it. But and now they just released this thing as of a couple of days ago where there's a battle pass per hero, and you have to pay to unlock, you know, a cosmetic track, and it's just like, it's just so blatantly obvious what they're trying to do with this game, and just capitalizing on the popularity of Marvel And like that's what I said. It's so weird that they're doing it now of all times when it's a little bit too late. Like it's nobody really like nobody really cares about Marvel anymore. Like it's the Avengers Endgame. If they were to release it before Endgame came out, oh my god,
Oh
they would
yeah,
have
that's
made billions of dollars, like living up on that hype. But now everyone's kind of like, okay, cool, Avengers game,
ooh,
and then that's
yeah.
it.
Even the game type really isn't that popular anymore. People have moved on from that, let alone. So you're just releasing to a market that really isn't there for it.
Yeah, and that's why like I feel like DC and like uh, them releasing this Gotham Knights game in the wake of all this, and kind of came out of nowhere. Like I remember I was at playing Magic the Gathering with some of my friends over the weekend, and the live stream for the Gotham Knights thing was happened to be on. He's like, hey, you should watch this. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Where did you find this? And he was like, oh, it's a DC like it's a whole like DC Comic Con basically. And I was like, oh, cool. And they released this Gotham Knights game, and I was like, what the heck? Where did this come from? This looks awesome. And I was just like watching it, and I was like, this is legitimately just a giant slap in the face to Marvel, because this game looks legitimately good, and like the story may be a little bit hit or miss, but I think like a co-op beat 'em up RPG is going to be pretty fun.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where it goes,
Oh yes.
and I'm always for trying new games, especially games with story that I don't really know much about, and I'm not really that versed on DC, but I know enough. I know who Mr. Freeze is, so I can get into it. But all right. So going on to our next thing, there is a Lord of the Rings game coming out, being made by, in conjunction with Middle Earth Entertainment, and it is called Lord of the Rings Gollum. I don't know if you've heard about this, but it is a stealth based single player adventure set in Mordor, and you play as Gollum. And the key is to navigate and solve puzzles and do all this stuff. An article was put out that said that this game, the movement system, handles, and I quote, like a truck with 4 flat tires. And I think the title of the article says enough to where the game is at this point. I am a massive Lord of the Rings fan. I have absorbed every single piece of Lord of the Rings there is to absorb out there. I've played Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War. I've read all the books. I've read the Silmarillion, all of the extended works of Christopher Tolkien. Like, I am a die-hard Lord of the Rings fan. If you were to see my room right now, you would understand. With Andoril hanging on my wall over here. But besides the point, I've watched kind of gameplay of this game, or not gameplay, but I've seen like the quote unquote like in-engine like gameplay trailers, right? The art style looks a little funky. Gollum, they tried to make him look like cute. Like they tried to make him look like more, I guess, palatable. Because Gollum is not an attractive character. He is supposed to look creepy as shit. Like, he is supposed to look creepy. And there was another article I read, like, that they gave him more hair on purpose to make him less creepy, which in turn, in my opinion, made him look more creepy. Because now he looks like Gollum, but with like fuckboy bangs, and it looks really strange. And I implore everybody listening to go look at what he looks like and tell me that I'm wrong. Like, I feel like Gollum with hair looks worse than Gollum without hair, and I really wish they would take the hair away, because it is like unsettling the way that he looks.
Oh God, yeah.
Like, and they like tried to make him look cute. Like, they tried to make him look like a cartoon character. Yeah, and they gave him a little, big lips and like a soft face, and like he doesn't look fucking scary as shit, which is, I feel like, the way that he should look. And even in Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, they did a really good job with making him look awesome. Like, I feel like he looks really good and faithful in that game. And like, I get it. It's a different art style, and they're trying to make it a different type of game. It's not a super gritty, down, like super realistic, hardcore, mature game. It's supposed to be kind of like a fun, like puzzle, like platformer, stealth game. I'm interested in it. I'll probably play it because like I said, I'm a fucking simp for Lord of the Rings, and I'll download I'm like legitimately like their number one fan, and I will buy the game and play it. Um, but I'm interested to see kind of where it goes. I feel like this is kind of a game that not many people are going to care about, but I'm definitely very interested to see where it goes because it's a very interesting game, and the fact that it's Lord of the Rings is more interesting to me. So
Yeah, the concept is unique, and I like that. Like, I don't mind a puzzle game. It's going to be very straightforward. Um, but by God, yeah. This this is this is interesting so far. That's about the most that I can say. I'm looking at pictures of Gollum right now, and all of them are a single screenshot which someone took, and he's got this edgy look in his eyes. He's kind of looking at the ground, and he's got his fuckboy bangs just kind of covering his eye.
yeah, it's definitely very, very off-putting. So we're gonna go into a couple of rapid fire topics here. Just kind of getting them out of the way. They don't really deserve their own segments. I mean, they're pretty cool, but then we'll kind of hit our last couple as we kind of get closer to the end here. Um, Fall Guys has made a Fall Guys hasn't made, but somebody has made a Fall Guys mod in Skyrim, obviously, where you can have the little Fall Guy beans, the Fall Guy bean people, following you around, whacking people with in-universe weapons. Looking at the screenshots, it's honestly pretty terrifying. If I saw those things running at me at Mach 10, I would be pretty scared too. But yeah, of course, someone made a Fall Guy mod for Skyrim. I thought that was pretty interesting.
So, aren't the
Go
bean
ahead.
people like 6 feet tall? Isn't that native?
I
Isn't that
think
lore?
so. I think that's canon, and also so Devolver, the company that publishes it, they came out and said that like kind of by accident that they're wearing like face plates. So like those little white circles with the eyes are like a face plate. So that's to assume that they have a face underneath those. And so somebody made an artwork that's like a like this like eldritch abomination, like piloting this like Fall Guys bean like mech suit, and just Jesus Christ. I just like that in and of itself has so many implications about why an eldritch horror is in this fantasy world. Maybe it's a prison. Maybe this Fall Guys universe is just a giant prison for people who have committed wrongdoings. It's just another layer of hell. And anybody that has, done really fucked up things in their past life are sent to this Fall Guys battle royale, and they're stuck in this immortal prison of, a bean, and they have to do these tasks, these gladiatorial combat tasks against other damned souls. But that's definitely, I'm gonna start writing a fan fiction about that.
Oh,
Next episode, Fall Guys fan fiction and lore podcast. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that has so many implications. But so moving on from that, The Witcher has announced that they're making an AR game, so an augmented reality game, based off of Pokemon Go, which is very interesting to me. I am not really into that like kind of AR game craze. I know there's like the Harry Potter one. Pokemon Go is obviously insanely popular, and everybody and their mom played that game. But this one is more focused on, from what I saw in the reveal, more of like an RPG. So you basically take on the role of a Witcher, and your job is to go around your neighborhood and hunt clues, and slay these monsters. But to me, what's kind of weird is like, why would you release a game that promotes you to go outside and slay monsters when the whole objective of the climate we're in is to stay inside?
yeah, people need that exercise, man.
I feel like if you're wearing a mask, and outside is kind of dumb to wear a mask, but if you're being safe and you're not, being around people, I guess there's not really a lot of harm in it. But yeah, it looks fairly interesting. It doesn't look like it's gonna break any sales records or anything, but I'll definitely give it a shot.
I'm a little confused on just kind of exactly what you're gonna do, because Pokemon Go, right, was a bit revolutionary. That was, everybody started playing that, right? But
Yeah.
a lot of people also understand Pokemon. It's really simple. All you're doing is catching Pokemon, right? This isn't something that you catch things. This is you're going around and you're murdering monsters. I don't
Yeah.
think that's going to be anywhere in terms of popularity.
I think I think it's I think it's cute. I think it's a cute idea, and I think the people that play these types of games, they love them, and I think it's like, good for them. It's a good way to kind of promote people to go out and do exercise and whatever. But for me, I don't want to leave my house, so uh, these kind of games kind of fall off for me after they are kind of telling me to leave my house. Um, for work, I do a lot of walking, so I might try it out in that aspect. But as far as like going outside in Texas, it is very hot, and I do not like the heat, so I probably will not be doing the outside
Right.
part of the game. But if I'm inside, if I'm walking around the mall, you damn sure you can catch me on this Witcher AR game for sure. Okay, so kind of the last thing before we get into kind of like one of the big topics I wanted to talk about was Nintendo is going to be releasing coming out next year, rumored to be a upgraded kind of like Nintendo Switch Pro uh, thing that's coming out. It's supposed to be able to do 4K, has more horsepower, be able to handle next gen games that are coming out. I think it's pretty smart. I don't think anybody expected Nintendo to not release a console because they would just be put behind by the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. I don't think it's going to be a huge jump forward in performance. It's going to be kind of like the next iteration of the Switch, which I think a lot of people are waiting for. I think a lot of people have waited to buy a Switch until the new one comes out. But we'll see. I'm not really super big into Nintendo, so couldn't really.
Well, I would like at least to see is I like what like the Switch sold like 61 million copies, and so all these people bought this Switch, and then they come out with a new one, and because I
I mean,
believe
that's Nintendo for you.
they already did one. They made like an upgraded variant of it, I believe, and
They made technically a downgraded variant of it. They made the Nintendo Switch Lite, which had a smaller
okay,
screen, lower resolution, no detachable controller, stuff like that. It's the same. I think it had the same horsepower, the same graphic chip in it. So technically, it performed better and had better battery life than the regular one, because of all the accessories you can put on the battery drain of the controllers and everything, which is pretty smart. I think that's a really good. Having like a really powerful handheld console is awesome. So I think if they do two different models, like they do like the Nintendo Switch Pro Home Edition and then the Nintendo Switch Pro Go Edition or something, I feel like that would be really good. Which is, I mean, I maybe just gave them the best idea of their life, which is they probably already thought about this. But I think having a super powerful, capable gaming console that you can have in your hand and also on your TV and play, these big screen games, I think that's very valuable. And I think we'll see the sales be the same, if not better than the original Switch. So I'll have to see where that goes. But besides that, the thing that I wanted to talk about the most was the fact that Madden 21 and EA have struck again with releasing these just absolutely amazing games. Like I'm talking like the pinnacle of, they set the bar so high that Cyberpunk just need not even apply at this point. Like I'm obviously joking and being very sarcastic right now. I don't know if you could tell I was laying it on a little thin there. Madden 21, as of this week, was rated by users the worst rated game of all time, with a whopping zero point 0.4 stars out of 10. Tied only with, which we were talking about this yesterday, the Division 2. Now wait, the Division 2 Warlords of New York expansion. So not even the Division 2 the game, which ranks decently high on user scores. People generally like the game. But for some reason, the expansion worlds of New York just rubbed people the wrong way, and they decided to review bomb it. And so the reason I want to talk about this more is like the fact that it kind of ties into the whole aspect of kind of like the state of the gaming industry right now. And user reviews and user scores are extremely subjective, and that's all they are. Is I buy a game, I don't like the game, I review it, I don't like it. It's not a critical, it's not, they are not nuanced reviews at all. They are all the same. This game fucking sucks, I hate it, EA sucks, suck my dick. That is all of the reviews, all they are. Now you look at the critical reviews, they're a little bit better. There's like maybe 3 total that are above a user score of 80, which is like, they're basically saying this is the same game as last year, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's not innovative at all. But the game isn't bad, it's just not any different than the other games. That's literally all they say. They're not praising the game for innovation or anything. They're just like, it's a good game, but it's no different than the past 10 years of Madden games. But the fact that this game on release has a 0.4 user score, I think it says a lot with how fucking fed up people are with these giant companies just releasing these absolutely dog shit games. And sports games for a long time have been in this kind of state of complacency where they are literally taking a quarter step forward each iteration and selling it as a $60 game.
Mm-hmm.
And it is absolutely ridiculous. And EA is actually under a class action lawsuit right now. They have been multiple times about the idea that loot boxes are gambling. And I feel like the law is finally starting to catch up a little bit with this because it actually is gaining a lot of traction. And if you look at the stories, I mean, they do not want to buckle under this because it will give people more reason to be behind the argument that they are exploiting people with gambling and, making these like ultimate team mechanics and stuff in their games. But like from what I've seen and the stuff that I've read, like Madden is like, they take all the systems and they add a shit ton of stuff into the game without focusing on the core game. So like when you buy Madden, you're buying like 16 different games at once that are so spread thin that it's like you don't even know what to play. And like the core gaming systems, they add like one feature to each and they're like, hey, look, it's a brand new game. Here's all these, custom game modes that we made and we added one feature to each of them. Look, it's a brand new game. And everyone's like, what about all the problems with the game? What about all the stuff that we've been talking about for years? It's just, it just sucks to see the people buying into this level of complacency and being so surprised when they're disappointed. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, no, exactly. We are stuck in this, like, right, what is there? There's, how many Madden games are there? And this is just Madden. There's so many others of these, quote, sports games that, and it doesn't just have to be sports games, but we just release the thing, and then the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. Games really shouldn't have more than 3 in the series, unless it's just completely unrelated and you're like, oh yeah, it relates to lore, might be a native part of the series, but it's a completely different game. If you're going to release a game, make it something new. Don't just keep coming out with
especially if you're trying to sell it as a full $60 new game in the series. It's not, they're basically selling a $60 patch. Like it's like a $60 update for their game. It's like it's not even a new game. It's just, it's so shitty. And it's like, I kind of talked about in the previous episode about how like, I feel like it's going to come full circle. And a lot of people are starting to realize that, and it's starting to physically not take any shit from these companies anymore. And you're seeing gamers and just consumers in general be more and more critical of game companies as the year goes on. And I feel like it's only a matter of time before the shit collapses on these AAA companies. And I talked about in the previous episode about how I feel like Cyberpunk is going to be the nail in the coffin for a lot of these game companies. And like if Cyberpunk comes out and it absolutely smashes sales, which I'm pretty sure it's going to do regardless if it's a good game or not, if it is a good game and if it lives up to the hype and it generally delivers and becomes game of the year, I feel like a lot of these companies are going to have a wake up call. And
Like,
they're going to have to realize that like mediocre games don't sell anymore. And
yes.
people aren't buying into it. People aren't buying it anymore. Like people are becoming more and more educated when it comes to their purchases, especially in gaming. And they're not. I mean, you can always argue that like, oh yeah, but what about like, you know, Call of Duty? People buy the same Call of Duty games every year. Call of Duty is at least innovating their games. Like Call of Duty, like Black Ops 4 to Modern Warfare is night and day. Like they got a whole new engine. The game feels completely different. As somebody who never hadn't played Call of Duty since Black Ops 1, picking up Modern Warfare and playing it, I was legitimately impressed with how different it was and how much better it looked, how much different it played, how much better it felt. Just like all the stuff they added, the campaign was really, really good. The multiplayer was really solid. Just like Warzone obviously being as popular as this. Say what you want about microtransactions, it's a fucking free. It's a free game, whatever. But people are getting tired of just buying the same regurgitated shit over and over again. And I think Assassin's Creed is another really good example where there are still some players that are hanging on to Assassin's Creed by a thread and they really, really hope that it's good. But I feel like the vast majority of people are just not interested anymore. They just don't care about the same game. And it's like this new Assassin's Creed Valhalla game, like people are going to buy it and they're going to play it, but the core audience doesn't care anymore. Like they just don't. They wish that Ubisoft would just take the Assassin's Creed out of the name and just make it something new. And it's something that like it's getting to the point where it is literally you go to the video game, you go to the aisle in Target, or you go onto Steam, or you go onto the PlayStation Store, and you look at what's out right now. It's all sequels. It's all sequels to games, and it's all regurgitated, remastered shit. And there's like maybe a few diamonds in the rough, like, you know, what's that new game that just came out? The samurai one.
Ghost of
Ghost of Tsushima. You look at that game. There's a couple of games in the rough that have come out, but other than that, it's very much all the same stuff we've seen. And I feel like I said, it's gonna come full circle, and people are gonna slowly start to realize that like they want something new, and Cyberpunk is going to be that thing that makes or breaks the market, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I would like to know just what happened to the creativity. Even say in sports games in general. I remember playing as a kid, playing the NFL and the street basketball games. They're the street variants. Those are fantastic, right? They were just something completely different. Well, like, yeah, some people like the mainstream, like, I want to play an actual football game. Like, okay, cool. But, like, it's such a simple idea, right? In the basketball game, you could shoot, dunk, dribble. There were, like, 4 buttons, basically, that you had to press. And you could do all these really cool, innovative, right? You're doing, like, backflips around people as you're dribbling the ball across the court. And it's that kind of stuff that people kind of want to see, or at least I want to see, right? That's a little bit of creativity on the developers' half that's just not there anymore, where they don't care enough to put it in. They're just like, get out the next piece of work.
Yeah, and I remember playing, like, there's a game called like MLB Slugfest back in the day that was like a really over the top, like, brutal baseball game where it was still a pretty like good baseball game as far as like playing baseball, but you could like punch people and you could like throw balls at people's faces and you could, like, you know, slide tackle and everything, and it was super fun. And I feel like a lot of the companies that are like, well, it's not a lot, it's literally just EA that are making these games in 2K, but they introduce some very cool concepts and they introduce some things that people would want to do, but then they don't ever expand on it or make it more interesting. It's like they strike gold once and then they just run with it for the next 5 years. Like I know in a lot of like the 2K and like Madden and stuff now, the whole thing, like, my career is a really big thing where you create like your player, and you don't only just play in game after game after game. You like legitimately like go to like a basketball court and like shoot hoops and like practice and train your guy, and you like get drafted by like a team, and you can have like, and like even so I'm for a while when I had a PS4 I was big into like the NHL games, and there's a really cool game mode where you play as the general manager of a hockey team, and you go in and you draft players and you trade and you make your team, and then you can like play the games with the team that you drafted, and it's really fun to be in that aspect. But then they don't ever change it or update it. They just do like a little tiny minor quarter step of like, oh, we fixed the problem with it. There you
New
go.
game.
Here's your game. New game, $60. It's like, well, this game mode's super fun, but I'm tired of playing the same game mode. Maybe have like something else I can do in the game mode. Maybe introduce a new system. Maybe introduce like an entire like new way to play the GM mode or something. But it's like, no, it's just the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah, you could even get stupid with it. Throw in wacky game modes. Throw in like you're playing Madden. All right, now throw in guns. Just see what happens.
Yeah, football with guns. Fuck it. Let's just
Like-
go. Just go for it. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And it's like, but the thing is like risks aren't safe, and like innovation isn't safe. It causes a risk, and innovation, if it fails, doesn't make you a shit ton of money. And so it's like the reason why they're doing this is very self-explanatory. It's because they are making money, so they don't want to stop and stray from the formula that works. And that's why these companies are now starting to fail, because they just don't understand the fact that people don't want the same regurgitated stuff over and over again, and it's slowly starting to catch up with them. So like it's gonna come full circle, and it's gonna collapse on them. Just like mark my words, like in the next 5 years we're gonna see an extremely large shift in the way that these companies like EA and Ubisoft and Activision are going to be scrambling to catch up. And just I just feel like people are going to wake up, and they're just going to realize that like they're tired of it. It's like they're tired of this stuff, and it's already happening. You can see it everywhere. It's like the amount of YouTube channels where their sole purpose is to comment on, the way that the state of the gaming industry, and people are just becoming more educated in general. And I just feel like it's all gonna come back to bite them in the ass. But so yeah, that is pretty much all we got for you this week. Did you have any closing thoughts? Anything that you wanted to talk about before we wrap it up?
No, yeah, that was great. That big one was really just the end. And we're really hoping that maybe in the future of these upcoming games that we really are going to change either both the people's mind or the development's mind. At least, I don't want to say the developers. I want to say the what is it? The owners, the stockholders, right?
Yeah.
The board of people that respond.
In reality, those are the people that decide where it goes at the end of the day. It's not the developers or the consumers. It's the stockholders.
Maybe
higher-ups.
gaming will take a turn towards being an actual artwork than being a product.
Yeah, and I think I legitimately think that it can only go so far before it collapses. I mean, it's just like anything. It's a fever, and it starts to heat up until the fever is quelled. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening this week. I know this is kind of an all over the place one, just kind of letting the ideas flow freely. It wasn't very structured, just kind of a quick catch up talking about certain topics throughout the week. Next week, we are doing the same day, Sunday again. We're going to have a little bit more of a structured episode for you, a little bit more of an overarching theme. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify, The Basement Takes on Spotify, and don't forget to give us a follow on Twitter to engage in some discussions about the gaming world, and just keep up to date with what we're doing as far as release schedules and topics, and yeah, just to keep in touch. So thank you guys so much. I've been Austin, and I'm joined here by Anderson. See you guys next week.